getting back-to-back YouTube videos. Now, this one is going to be part 3 of Sex Game Television and Film versus Horror part 3. Where I left off in part 2, I said I was going to come back and make some video on horror remakes. Why a lot of the horror remakes were killing the franchise and the genre of horror, and where they went wrong with so many remakes. Now let's start with the original movies and do a compare and contrast with the original movies and the remakes of their counterparts. Let's start with some of the new Halloween movies. Okay, the new Halloween movies that were directed by Rob Zombie, they were like an altering timeline where Michael Myers is Michael Myers, but it was played up in a different scenario. Where in the originals, Michael Myers had direction, Michael Myers had motivation, and Michael Myers knew what to do. Whereas in Rob Zombie's version, Michael Myers has some direction. Michael Myers has some motivation. And you notice it stopped at 2 films. Because a lot of people hate the Rob Zombie version of Halloween. I mean, I liked the movie in the sense that the first one was done decently. The second one kind of fell flat. It underperformed at the box office. And then we see Jamie Lee Curtis come back and John Carpenter come back and give us the Halloween that you've seen for years. And it gets a sequel. So that version is connected to the original Halloween film. It is openly accepted. Where Rob Zombie's version is just critically bashed because, what did I just say? He tried to change up Michael Myers in a way people did not want changed up. Now, I give Rob Zombie some kind of credit for trying to take on a big name franchise. Because sometimes when you take on a big franchise, that could make or break your career as a filmmaker. Now, let's get to another original that got remade. Let's look at Night of the Demons. Now, Night of the Demons was made in the 1980s. Now, it's a good cult classic horror movie about a teenage girl who's a social outcast who got ignored for basically 3 or 4 years in high school and decided to get revenge on her classmates for ignoring her. You know, it's New Orleans. She takes them to this house called Hell House, and it has demonic energy, which it possesses her and it makes her into a demon, and then she infects them and turns them into demons. And then it's a girl from her class being forced to fight her. That was a scary movie, the way they promoted it. And then you have the fact that they would follow it up with Night of Demons Part 2. Night of Demons Part 2 was not as good as the first one because it was like a step down from the first film. They waited 10 years later to do the second film. And they brought the actress back in her 30s, which kind of convinced people that they didn't know why you wait that long to do a sequel. And then they came with Night of Demons 3 from like out of nowhere, which is even worse than the second film because they didn't know where to take the characters into which direction. So the third one was like the worst one in the franchise. Then they wait like almost 15 years later and they tried to remake Night of Demons again. Now, they found the right actress to play Angela. The problem was it went straight to DVD. Nobody knew they were going to come back with a remake. And the remake got criticized because it was missing elements from the original film. Like they tried to show you the history of what happened before they got to the story of how Angela became the villain in these movies. So you could tell the movie fell flat. Nobody took the movie serious. People said it's like a bad porno, and it's not a horror movie, which is true. It's a bad porno, not a horror movie. Another movie franchise that they messed up was Resident Evil. The first Resident Evil movie was real good. Very well written, very well directed, very well produced. Found the right actress to play the character. Resident Evil 2 Apocalypse, it wasn't as good as the first film, but it was good enough for a good action performance. I call Resident Evil 2 an action-packed movie, because that's all it is. It's just jam-packed with action. Lots of action, lots of explosions, lots of twists and turns. Resident Evil 3 Extension, nowhere near as good as the first 2 films. Resident Evil Afterlife was a good movie, but it could have been better. And the rest of those just were disappointing. And to me, if you're going to remake a franchise, it's Resident Evil you need to do all over again with a structured idea. Instead of trying to make five, six, seven movies, three movies is all you need for Resident Evil. And you would need someone like Christopher Nolan to come in and did like he did for the Batman films, do the same thing to Resident Evil. Give us a Resident Evil 1, a Resident Evil 2, and a Resident Evil 3. You don't necessarily need to do 4, 5, 6, 7 movies to get me interested. Give me 3 movies, I'm satisfied. Some franchises you can do 4, 5, 6 movies. Like Aliens, for an example. You see the remakes are just nowhere near close to Alien and Aliens. Those are like a step down from those movies. So this should conclude part 3 of that video.